watching the man's pipe as if bewitched. Then another rat appeared and joined the first, then another and another. In no time at all, the square was full of rats, all sitting still, staring at the Pied Piper. The piper turned to the mayor.
"I will be back for my gold,"
he promised. Then he turned on his heel and marched quickly out of the square, across the river, and up the steep path that led to the mountains. The rats followed him silently, in a long snaking line. The people were amazed. When they went back to their homes, they found that every single rat had disappeared.
"Hurrah!"
they shouted.
"Let's have a party!"
Next day, the Pied Piper turned up in the town square.
"I have come for my reward,"
he said.
"Oh, have you?"
replied the mayor.
"I've been thinking about that. It's a lot of money. How do we know that the rats didn't just decide to leave town?"
"How can you be so sure you got rid of them?"
asked one of the crowd.
"Rats don't even like music."
"You must keep your word,"
replied the piper sternly.
"I'll give you one last chance."
"We're not giving you our money,"
everyone said.
"And that's an end to it."
The piper turned angrily on his heel and marched to the middle of the square. Without another word, he lifted the pipe to his lips and began to play. He played the most beautiful music that made everyone want to follow him. But the grown-ups put their hands over their ears.
"You can't fool us!"
they shouted. But then, all of a sudden, one of the children ran into the square. She ran right up to the piper and stood there. She watched the man's pipe as if in a dream. Then another child appeared and joined the first. Then another and another. In no time at all, the square was full of children, all standing still, staring at the Pied Piper. The piper looked at the people.
"This will teach you to be true to your word,"
he shouted as he turned away. He lifted his pipe to his lips and began to walk away towards the bridge. He crossed the river and marched up the steep path that led to the mountains. The children followed him silently in a long snaking line. The townspeople tried to stop their children leaving, but to no avail. They stood and watched them disappear. Then they turned on the mayor.
"This is all your fault,"
they shouted.
"You should have kept your promise."
"Where has he taken them?"
"What on earth are we going to do?"
Up in the mountains, the children walked and climbed until they reached the opening to a dark cave. The piper stood aside as they all marched in. Then he put away his pipe and strode into the darkness. But there was one little girl who walked too slowly to keep up with the others. She watched the children disappear into the cave. When the music stopped, it was as if she had woken from a dream. She scrambled back to the town as quickly as she could. She led the mare across the river and along the steep path up into the mountains. The people followed silently.